Hello and welcome to our channel, where we highlight cases that demonstrate the power of the civil justice system to bring about justice and accountability, especially when the criminal justice system may have failed to do so. Today, we're going to be discussing the tragic shooting of 12-year-old Tamir Rice and how the family was awarded $6 million in civil damages but received no criminal justice. Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old African-American boy who lived with his family in Cleveland, Ohio. He was in the 6th grade, loved basketball, and enjoyed life. On November 22, 2014, Tamir spent the majority of the day at the Cuddle Park Recreation Center, which we will call CPRC. Throughout the day, Tamir was frequently seen playing with a toy black airsoft pistol with a removable magazine that may have resembled a .45 Colt semi-automatic pistol. Tamir would periodically point the toy gun at individuals at the CPRC and the adjoining playground. At approximately 3:11 p.m., an individual made a 911 call to report that a guy with a pistol was pointing a gun at multiple people on the playground at the CPRC. The caller gave a detailed description of the individual, stating that he was probably a juvenile and that the gun was probably fake, but he also described the scene as very frightening.
I'm sitting in the park at West Boulevard by the West Boulevard Rapid Transit Station. And there was a guy in there with a pistol. It's probably fake, but he's like pointing it at everybody. The guy keeps pulling it in out of his pants. It's probably fake, but you know what? It's scaring the He's sitting on the swing right now, but he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants and pointing at people. It's probably a juvenile, Hello?
Do you know the guy?
No, I do not. Sure.
Okay, what's the police, okay?
I'm getting ready to leave, but you know what? He's right there by the youth center or whatever. And he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants. I don't know if it's real or not.
Okay, we'll send a call there. Thank you.
911 dispatcher subsequently broadcast the call as a Code 1, which is the highest priority call, and officers Timothy Lohman, age 26, and Frank Garmbach, age 46, radioed that they would respond. The information the dispatcher relayed to officers Garmbach and Lohman was the following narrative. A black male is sitting on the swing. He's wearing a camouflage hat and a gray jacket with black sleeves. He keeps pulling a gun out of his pants and pointing it at people. The dispatcher did not relay that the individual might be a juvenile or that the gun might be fake. Thus, the officers believed that they were responding to a playground where a grown man was brandishing a real gun at individuals, presumably including children.
In the park by the youth center, there's a black male sitting on the swings. He's wearing a camouflage hat, a gray jacket with black sleeves. So he keeps pulling a gun out of his pants and pointing it at people.
How many calls are you getting for that?
Just the one so far.
It is not clear from the video evidence when Tamir became aware of the patrol car driving toward the gazebo. Tamir stood up at the picnic table approximately 10 seconds before the shooting, and over the course of the next 3 seconds, he walked around the end of the table in a semicircle, so that he was facing in the general direction of the oncoming patrol car but not yet moving toward it. Meanwhile, the patrol car continued to approach the gazebo. Tamir began walking forward toward the passenger side of the approaching patrol. Meanwhile, Officer Garmbach applied the brakes in an attempt to stop the patrol car, but due to the wet conditions on the ground, the car did not stop where he intended and instead slid forward approximately 40 feet. Disclaimer: the remainder of this story becomes pretty sad with graphic descriptions which may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. As the patrol car came to a stop a short distance from Tamir, who by that point had stopped moving forward and was stationary, Officer Lohman exited the passenger side of the still-moving patrol car. Officer Lohman fired 2 shots within less than 2 seconds of opening the passenger door, striking Tamir once in the abdomen. As soon as Officer Lohman exited the patrol car, he fell to his right and the ground, toward the rear of the patrol car. When Officer Lohman got to his feet, he quickly moved to the rear driver's side of the patrol car for cover while continuing to aim his drawn weapon in Tamir's direction. Meanwhile, Officer Garmbach exited the patrol car and began moving to the front of the vehicle, where he stood for approximately 15 seconds with his gun drawn and pointing in Tamir's direction. Enhanced video still show a dark object, the toy gun, appearing on the floor of the gazebo within a few feet of Tamir approximately 7 seconds after the shooting, just as Officer Garmbach reached the front of the patrol car and just after Tamir's upper body moved to the ground and out of view of the surveillance camera. Officer Garmbach stood at the front of the patrol car for approximately 15 seconds with his gun drawn and pointed in the direction of Tamir, then moved into the gazebo and kicked the toy gun and magazine further away from Tamir. Sadly, 4 whole minutes passed without any medical care being provided to Tamir, who lay on the ground fighting for his life. Tamir's 14-year-old sister, whom we will refer to as TR, was in the restroom at the time Tamir was shot. Within 1 minute of the shooting, TR approached the scene and ran toward Tamir, who was now bleeding to death on the ground, and then TR began screaming, "My baby brother! They killed my baby brother!" As TR ran toward her little brother Tamir, officers tackled her to the ground. The officers proceeded to handcuff TR and put her in the back of the police car only a few feet from where her baby brother lay bleeding to death on the ground, providing her with a window view from the back seat where she watched Tamir dying. After about 4 minutes, an FBI agent who just so happened to be in the area arrived on the scene and immediately walked over to check on Tamir and began administering first aid measures. Tamir Rice, Tamir Rice's mother, arrived on the scene shortly after TR, and after children in the neighborhood informed her that her son was shot. Samari arrived to see her 12-year-old son Tamir shot by police bleeding to death on the ground, and her 14-year-old daughter handcuffed in the back of the police cruiser. Samaria demanded the release of her daughter TR, but the police officers gave Samaria 2 choices. She could go to the hospital with her dying 12-year-old son Tamir or stay with her 14-year-old daughter handcuffed and detained in the back of the police cruiser. Samaria chose to go to the hospital with Tamir and was forced to leave her daughter TR in the custody of the same police officers that just shot her 12-year-old son. The entire incident was captured on video and by the cell phones of independent citizens. Tamir was transported from the scene to Metro Health Medical Center where he, unfortunately, succumbed to his injuries. Tamir lost his life the next day, on November 23, 2014. The police officer who shot him, Timothy Lohman, was not prosecuted. The decision not to prosecute Lohman was made by a grand jury in 2015 after the case was presented by the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Timothy McGinty, who oversaw the process, argued that Tamir's death was caused by a perfect storm of human error, mistakes and miscommunications by all involved that day, but there was no evidence of criminal misconduct by police. Apparently, McGinty recommended to the grand jurors that no charges be brought. Grand juries are a type of legal proceeding in which a panel of citizens reviews evidence presented by prosecutors and decides whether there is sufficient evidence to charge a person with a crime. In the case of Lohman, the grand jury decided that there was not enough evidence to charge him with a crime. It's worth noting that grand juries are often criticized for their secrecy and for the fact that they often do not result in indictments. In many cases, grand juries are seen as a rubber stamp for the decisions of prosecutors, and there have been calls for reform of the grand jury system. In general, the prosecution and defense are not present during the selection of grand jurors. Grand juries are investigatory bodies, and they do not hear cases in the same way that regular juries do. Instead, grand juries review the evidence presented by the prosecution and decide whether there is sufficient evidence to charge a person with a crime. Grand jury proceedings are generally closed to the public and are held in secret. Whether or not you believe the prosecutor tried hard enough to convince the jury of the officer's fault, I will leave that up to you to decide of your own free will. However, in the end, neither officer was charged of any crime in the killing of Tamir Rice. Lohman, who was a trainee at the time of the incident, was fired in May 2017, not for the shooting, but because investigators found he wasn't truthful about his employment history when he applied for the job, officials said. Garmbach was suspended for 10 days because he violated tactical rules relating to how he drove up to the site where Rice was shot that day. It has been argued that how Garmbach recklessly drove the vehicle to Tamir's location placed Officer Lohman in a compromised position, which is why he fired shots within 2 seconds of exiting the moving patrol car. A civil case involving the shooting of Tamir Rice was filed by the family against the city of Cleveland in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio. This is a federal court that has jurisdiction over cases involving federal laws and constitutional issues, as well as cases involving parties from different states or countries. In the civil complaint, the family made about 3 claims. First, the family alleged that the city of Cleveland had actual knowledge of or failed to conduct a proper investigation into the employment background of Officer Lohman, which would have revealed his unsuitability for employment as a law enforcement officer. Before his employment with the City of Cleveland's police department, Officer Lohman's actions and inactions demonstrated that he was not suitable for employment or competent as a law enforcement officer. For example, while Lohman was employed with Independence Police Department, Sergeant Greg Tinarello, Officer Lohman's supervising and training officer, reported in his employment file that he exhibited emotional instability, he was not mentally prepared to do firearm training, and his handgun performance was dismal. He did not exhibit clear thoughts and was distracted and weepy during a state range qualification course. He demonstrated a lack of maturity and failure to follow instructions. He lied about not securing his firearm overnight. He lied to supervisors on the job and was otherwise professionally incompetent. On November 28, 2012, during his gun range examination on the state of Ohio gun qualifications, he began crying, was distracted, and not following instructions, and the supervising officer was forced to remove Officer Lohman's gun belt, taking possession of his gun and securing it in a safe location. When the supervising training officer attempted to discuss the situation with Officer Lohman told his supervisor, "What I want is for you to just shut up." Officer Lohman's employment file further noted that it just appears that he is not mature enough in his accepting of responsibility or his understanding in the severity of his loss of control on the range. As such, his Independence Police Department supervisors ultimately recommended his termination, documenting that due to his dangerous loss of composure during live range training and his inability to manage personal stress in his employ, Officer Lohman did not have the maturity to work in their employment. Deputy Chief of Police for the City of Independence, Jim Pollock, found, "I do not believe time nor training will be able to change or correct these deficiencies," and began the disciplinary process of separation, informing Officer Lohman of his intention to terminate his employment, at which point Officer Lohman resigned. Cleveland Police Department admitted that they did not review Officer Lohman's record at the Independence Police Department or the recommendations and findings of his prior supervisors and training officers. Also, before his employment with Cleveland Police Department, Lohman applied to work in police departments in Akron, Euclid, and Parma Heights, all of which refused to hire him. In September 2013, Defendant Lohman failed the Cuyahoga County Sheriff Department's written entrance exam, earning only 46 points out of 100, on an exam with a pass requirement of a minimum of 70 points. So, the Rice family claimed that the city of Cleveland failed to conduct a proper investigation into Officer Lohman's past employment history or properly examine his fitness for employment as a law enforcement officer. An adequate investigation would have shown his unsuitability for employment. In our opinion, this detail of information on Lohman's background would never have come to light if it weren't for the civil suit investigation. This is one reason why we believe that civil justice is just as important as criminal justice. Second, the family claimed that the city of Cleveland had knowledge of the 911 dispatcher Constance Hollinger's unsuitability for employment as a dispatcher and improperly retained her and/or failed to properly train her as an employee and/or failed to properly supervise her. In February 2014, Constance Hollinger was issued a letter of re-instruction on call-taking procedures. Third, the family alleged that the officers involved in the shooting had used excessive force and that the city had not properly trained its police officers. In 2016, 2 years after the killing, the city avoided a trial and agreed to pay a $6 million settlement to the Rice family. The city paid Tamir's family $3 million in 2016 and $3 million in 2017. Reportedly, Tamir's estate received $5.5 million, while his mother, Tamir Rice, and his sister, Tr, received $250,000 each directly. It's difficult to say whether insurance companies are growing tired of paying out settlements in cases involving police shootings or other controversial incidents. Insurance companies are in the business of managing risk, and they are used to paying out settlements and other claims in a wide variety of cases. However, insurance companies may be more hesitant to insure law enforcement agencies or municipalities in cases where there is a history of high-profile incidents or lawsuits. In such cases, the insurance company may choose to charge higher premiums or may decline to cover the agency or municipality altogether. It's also worth noting that insurance companies are subject to the same economic pressures as any other business, and they may be more hesitant to pay out large settlements if they are experiencing financial difficulties or if they are concerned about their ability to cover future claims. Over time, the lack of insurance coverage for law enforcement agencies may cause a training or policy change in how police respond to calls or how dispatch relays information. Though many believe that the 911 caller in this situation had a legit reason to call emergency services, we hope to see some type of law reform that makes it a felony to call emergency services when there is no actual threat, such as some of the viral Karen incidents.
I hear you have a problem with these gentlemen having a barbecue here at the lake. What's going on?
Oh, now she don't want to talk.
She doesn't want to talk now.
It's illegal to have a charcoal grill in the park here.
No, it's not actually. I just looked at the map. It says this is a designated barbecue area.
No, not for a charcoal grill. No charcoal grills are allowed. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I gotta try and get it.
You must not have looked up.
What kind of grill are you not allowed, and why are you so bent out of shape over them being
Because
here?
it causes extra money from our city to do things when children get injured because of improperly disposed holes.
So are you saying that they're going to hurt children out here, or I mean, like, what is with this?
There's laws about this park, and
I know the laws about this park.
And charcoal grills are not allowed here.
So they should go buy a new grill because I just looked at it and it doesn't say anything.
Charcoal grills in here.
Little kids are trying to play out here, and considering that those kids don't live in the area, and they're running around the other kids that are smaller than them and not aware of the children, I feel like that should be an issue brought to parents' attention, don't you?
Yeah, but
I mean, it's not safe, is it?
You can't punish all the kids on what a few are doing. You
Well,
can't
then,
tell all the kids around here.
what
If
am I
that's the
supposed
case,
to do if they're all together?
Nobody's supposed to do. That's the only way to resolve that.
That's not even irrational thinking.
Neither is the other way.
In the civil settlement, Tamir's family was able to acquire a part of the recreation center where the killing occurred and do a memorial for Tamir, placing a plaque in the ground, made of marble and stone, and 2 trees planted. Also, a butterfly garden was made in the same area to preserve where TR was tackled and handcuffed. In 2018, Tamir's mother purchased a building, with plans to turn it into the Tamir Rice Afro-Central Cultural Center, which will be providing free after-school programming for the community. We were unable to confirm whether the cultural center rehab has been completed at the making of this video. Tamir's mother had ownership of the gazebo, which was where Tamir was murdered, and as of January 2021 it was being preserved at the Stony Island Darts Bank in Chicago, and Samaria was in the process of locating a permanent home for it, such as the Lynching Museum. The shooting of Tamir Rice was a tragic and heartbreaking incident that highlights the importance of proper training and accountability in law enforcement. The civil justice system played a crucial role in bringing about justice and accountability in this case, and the settlement reached in the lawsuit provided some measure of closure and compensation for Tamir's family, although not enough. I hope that by highlighting cases like this on our channel, we can shed light on how the civil justice system can be a powerful tool for achieving justice and holding those in positions of power accountable. Thank you for watching. If you have any cases of police violence you would like us to highlight, please simply comment below or email us at info@beyondcriminalcourt.com.